And good day. My name is Michael Bull, and this is Florida Man Rides. Today I want to do something a little bit different. So 2021 is coming to an end, and 2022 is coming up. 2022, our Governor Ron DeSantis has to run for re-election. Now, rumor is our Agriculture Commissioner Nikki Fried may try to make a bid to run against him. Now, about 10 months ago, not 11 months ago, Nikki Fried went on to a podcast called Pod Save America. The media company was created by a couple of former Obama White House. There's two speechwriters, a communications director, and a foreign policy expert. So these four people create a media company called Crooked Media. Yeah, Crooked Media, yeah. And off this umbrella company, they got a few different podcasts: Pod Save America, Pod Save the World, Hysteria, and some other stuff. Anyways, so somehow either Nikki Fried reaches out or they reach out to Nikki Fried. This way that they can talk about Florida and talk to a Floridian, and it leads a little bit of credibility to it. But this is the podcast that follows. All right.
Alyssa and I frequently have a B, or perhaps even several Bs in our bonnets about fuckery at the state level, particularly in states that are run by Republicans who seem to have no skill or interest in actual governing.
I forgot to tell you, these ladies, they're of a low moral, they're of a low character. I don't mind a lady that curses, but whenever you're going onto a public scene, you should try to conduct yourself in a little bit more of a clean manner, I think. Maybe that's just me, though.
Today, we've got a voice of reason from one of those states to talk about what's going wrong and what needs to happen in order to make it right. She's currently the only Democrat elected to a statewide office in Florida. She is Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Nikki Fried. Welcome, Nikki.
Well, thank you so much for having me on today. And really, quite honestly, thank you for everything that you guys are doing. The fact that you are targeting people in red states that are standing up is really incredible, and helping those of us who are in those positions really carry our voices and know that there's a lot of support out there for what we do.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. So Florida has made headlines lately for a lot of concerning COVID-related reasons. As somebody who's actually there, how has the last year of the COVID pandemic gone for you, and how has it gone for your fellow Floridians?
You know, for me personally, it's been just as hard as it is for everybody else out there.
Let me pause it right there. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and get to the actual meat and potatoes of it. So anyways, this is hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. We are 11 months down the road from when this interview was conducted. So, take that for what it's worth. But this does go to show her character, I think. And remember, while we right now in Florida are pretty much living our life the way we always have, in California and New York, they're locking back down. Mask mandates, vaccine, you got to show proof of your vaccine to go into buildings and stuff like that. And I think we narrowly dodged a bullet with Andrew Gillum. He nearly made it. And I think if Andrew Gillum was in the governor's mansion instead of Ron DeSantis, we'd be looking just like New York or California. All right? New York, they live a lot differently than we do. California, not so much though. I mean, there's no reason for them to be locking down like they are. So keep that in mind. You think, oh, it couldn't happen here in Florida. We live totally different. Well, maybe it could. So keep that in mind. All right, let's fast forward a little bit and get to where she's really talking about what's going on.
And unfortunately, we've got a Republican governor who took his marching orders this entire time from President Trump. So wouldn't do anything without the permission from Trump, whether that was to close down the state, whether it was to open the state. We had no mask mandate. The orders that came out of his office were confusing. He was hiding numbers and changing numbers from the Department of Health, not releasing information. It has been a dumpster fire here in the state of Florida. But for our local mayors and our city and council members from across the state who stepped up during these times to protect their communities, we would have been very, very far worse off than we are today.
Speaking of your governor, Ron DeSantis, it seems like a lot of problems in Florida can be traced to him. Can you explain how DeSantis' handling of the pandemic has made it worse?
Let's pause it right there. So what the little lady there in the pink is doing, that's called leading the question or begging the question. She's leading the questioner by saying, can you explain how he's made it worse? Instead of saying, has his leadership made it better or worse? Or can you explain what you do or don't like about Governor Ron DeSantis' leadership in the pandemic? She's already framing the question to the response. She's already framing the response that Nikki Fried is going to give. So this is called groupthink as well. Instead of Nikki being strong-minded and a leader and saying, well, not really, but here's what I can explain to you. She follows the lead. You see, one lady is leading and she's just following right along. Keep that in mind. All right, let's go on.
Can you explain how DeSantis' handling of the pandemic has made it worse?
Yeah, lack of leadership. Again, that was following Trump the entire time. So anything that Trump said, pushing all of the hoax types of vaccines and medications, then all of a sudden Florida is buying them. So he just has really been so up to get the support of President Trump. And then what happened also is he would be changing numbers and changing theories of, no, we don't have community spread. Oh, wait, maybe we do. Or it doesn't impact our kids. Wait, maybe.
And pause that right there. See what it says right there on the front of the governor's podium? Seniors first. Keep that in mind.
Almost to continue to confuse people. He didn't do any of that. He has really, so instead of having a leader who went to the cameras every day, put confidence into the people of our state, said, listen, we're all in this together. Please wear a mask. Please social distance. I know it's hard not seeing your family and your friends, but we got to do this together. In order for our economy to rebound, we've got to get through beating this virus. And he didn't do any of that. He has really taken himself out of any conversations with experts. He brings around those hoax experts that we saw President Trump talking about, how herd immunity is the way to go. And that's how the governor reacted. Opened up our state completely. With no guidelines, no metrics of how to have 25% business capacity or 50%, and kind of slowly going into this. And he's proud of it. I mean, he talks about our state is open for business, and we talk about Disney. Well, California still, Disneyland is still closed, and he was pulled out of a press conference because he wasn't,
That was really the portion that I wanted to get to. She all but says, she doesn't say it, but she all but says mask mandates. She uses the word guidance instead of mandates, but I think mandates is the word she's wanting to go for, but she doesn't quite grasp it, which is smart on her part.
With no guidelines, no metrics of how to have 25% business capacity or 50%, and kind of slowly going into this.
All right, now a lot of states did go with mandates. We did not, and I think that was fine. We did have recommendations, and stores did have their own guidance, but we did not have mandates here, and that's fine. That didn't bother me one bit, but it seemed to bother her. She seemed to be like, in her mind, it seems that leadership is controlling others, where we here in Florida, leadership is letting others control themselves. There's a top-down leadership where from the top down, you give authority to your other people. So you're given authority, down, down, and down. And that makes the job easier on the person in charge. And then so that's one type of leadership. And then there's another type of leadership where you just grab a hold and you control everything from the top down. One type of leadership leads to flourishing, and one type of leadership leads to destroying and rebellion. Maybe not rebellion. Let me hold off on that. but one type of leadership leads to resentment. How about that? We'll go with resentment. So what Florida did is give authority down and down and down to the individual. You have the authority to mask yourself, to social distance if you want. You have the authority to live your life. Other states kept the authority up here and said, no, you will mask up, you will social distance, you will not see your family, and so on and so forth. All right, which leadership style would you like? It seems like Nikki Fried all but wants this type of leadership, the control leadership. Lock me down harder, daddy. Control me harder, daddy, is what she seems to be saying. So, I don't know. That's your choice. That's your choice. Authority given or authority held. And it seems like she thinks that the authority should be held at the top. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she's just following, like I said, she's following the lead of what these ladies want her to say. But if that's the case, she just follow her as well, you know? She's not leading. So, all right, let's continue on.
Explain a little bit more about the pay to play as it relates to the vaccines. Who is he prioritizing in vaccine distribution?
All right. Now, they're about to go into the pay for play vaccine scandal. Now, if you think back to this scandal, the scandal was that Governor Ron DeSantis was orchestrating these pop-up sites in communities that his donors were. All right, so correlation does not necessarily equal causation. Just because somebody is in the community that did donate does not mean that he went to that community because somebody was in that community that he donated. If you drive around Florida, you will see all over the place communities, trailer parks, housing developments, whatever, and on the front of it says 55 and older. That is because to live in that community, you have to be 55 and older. They won't sell you the property to anyone that's under 55. So it's a retirement community. It's where the old people are. Now think back to what it said on the front of his podium. Seniors first. He was going to where the seniors were. And just so happened, some seniors donated to his campaign. Now let's think back, let's think another step. Do you think when Governor Ron DeSantis was running for governor, do you think the seniors were like, I'm going to give you this check, but in the event a pandemic comes and destroys our economy, shuts down our civilization around the world, and in the event that a vaccine is developed in record time, faster than any vaccine has ever been developed, and in the event that you have some authority to orchestrate how that vaccine is given out, I will give you this check, but you have to make sure that I get priority on that vaccine. No one even thought that this was possible. No one thought a virus of this magnitude was possible. No one thought a vaccine could be developed in this amount of time. And just no. It's absolutely ludicrous. All right? So from the very beginning, this pay-to-play vaccine distribution didn't pass the smell test to me. What say you?
First come, first serve for our seniors, which was an absolute disaster. There was no state plan, there was no organization, there was no talking to your local Department of Health or your hospitals. He just said, first come, first serve, and started distributing the vaccines. So that was the first disaster. And then he started kind of getting smart and started realizing that he can have a political win by designating these vaccines to Republican areas, areas where he has received significant campaign contributions. We have 3 already documented areas here in our state where a vaccine pop-up site, we're calling them pop-up sites because they're not organized. They come at the last minute. Typically, it was because he had a press conference in that area. And 3 specific instances. We had one that was in what's called Manatee County here in Florida, where it was 2 specific zip codes. And the county commissioner from that area created a VIP list that was at the direction of the governor of who was going to get these vaccines before everybody else. And exclusive zip codes, which happened to have been the wealthiest 2 zip codes in that county. And when the governor was questioned about it, he said, well, I can just move them to another place if you guys aren't happy with getting vaccines here. And meanwhile, the other part of town, the west part of town, is really an underserved minority community that had no vaccines. And you only could be getting these vaccines if you lived in this zip code. And we then saw the amount of campaign contributions from this area that had gone in previously or in the last couple of months to the governor. We saw the same thing a little bit further south in one of our other counties, where there is a wealthy Republican donor who has given significant campaign contributions to him over the last couple of years and is a developer. And these vaccines were going into this developer's exclusive, and the county.
All right. Notice how many times Nikki is saying the word exclusive. Exclusive by its very nature is an exclusive. It is to exclude. So it is a divisive word. So she's saying this to divide us. If you are excluded, now who's being excluded? Non-seniors. That's who's being excluded. All right. So, but the way she's saying it, it's to imply that you are being excluded. So every time she says these exclusive clubs, these exclusive places, it's very exclusive. It's to imply in your head that you are the one who's being excluded, and that the mean old Ron DeSantis is excluding you. Who's being excluded is the young, healthy people, because of course it's seniors first.
Again, gated communities that other people couldn't get into. And I think the most atrocious one that we have seen is down in the Keys, in one of Key Largo, in one of these, again, exclusive resort areas, where there was 17 individuals that gave $5,000 campaign contributions in the month of December. A past Republican governor from Illinois that gave a $250,000 campaign contribution, and the hospital that gave him the vaccines canceled appointments for other people to shift these vaccines to this area. Saw the amount of campaign contributions from this.
Look at the other 2 ladies up top. Look at the other 2 ladies. They are just eating this up. They love it. They love it. Sometimes someone will say something and you want to hear it. So you won't think critically. You just, oh yes. This is how people fall for the, I am the king of Majambing. If you will give me your bank account, I will give you, I will put into your bank account $1 million if you would just give me your bank account. That's how people fall for this stuff like that. They want the $1 million. They're so happy that they're going to get that $1 million. They're not thinking critically. These 2 ladies above, they're not thinking critically. They're not thinking how this scandal doesn't really pass the smell test. They want it to be true, so ergo is true, and they're just not even thinking. All right, let's go on a little bit.
And people that were members couldn't even get the vaccines. You actually had to be an equity shareholder of this community in order to get these vaccines. And now the governor is saying, well, I wasn't involved in this one. This was through the Baptist Health. Meanwhile, Baptist has said, Governor, we would have never done this without somebody from your office giving us the green light. So there's back and forth. And that's just 3 examples that we know of today. I can go on and list other times when we know he's going into a community, or that it's been just released that there's a press conference in Volusia County, and that there's going to be a pop-up site in Volusia County. But meanwhile, the day before, the Republican Club of Volusia County sent out an email encouraging people to go and see the governor and get your vaccine. And again, this is not a wide distribution of that county. This is just the Republican Club of that community. And again, so we are just constantly seeing that he's using these vaccines as a tool to reward his donors, to reward people that have supported the Republican Party. And at the same respect, those counties and those city commissioners who have been more critical of him, he is not providing vaccines in those areas or going around them to provide into those communities.
From a public health perspective, what happens when people who need the vaccine most aren't prioritized? Like, what have you seen as the overall harm when so many people have been allowed to cut in line?
Yeah, the problem is that, right now our teachers aren't getting vaccinated. Unless you are 55 and above and have a health concern, our teachers are not being vaccinated.
All right, let's pause it right there. Our teachers are not getting vaccinated unless they're 55 and above or have a pre-existing health condition. That's a lot of unless. That unless is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Why would you give, in the beginning, this vaccine was it was just rolling out. We didn't have a whole lot of it. Why would you give it to someone who is healthy and young and not at risk? You give it to seniors first, the people that are at risk. It makes sense. Just because they're teaching, but they're young and healthy, so they're not at risk. You give it to the people that are at risk. All right, so that unless that she mentions there is doing a lot of heavy lifting. All right, let's go on a little bit, just on a little bit more.
Our farm workers, the things that I oversee, are not a priority. So these are the individuals that haven't stopped working. Our farmers have been out there making sure that we're feeding not just our state, but our country. We're seeing the people that work at the food stores are not prioritized. So these individuals that have put their lives on the line every single day for us, that are essential workers, are waiting at the back of the line.
Farm workers, people who are out on the farm by themselves, or a good distance away from their farm hands. Farm hands are young and healthy. She's thinking that they should get the vaccine. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
So we've got a big problem here that you are really disenfranchising and really hurting minority communities more so than our white communities and our rich Republican donors.
Wow, what a garbage human. Are you seeing any encouraging signs in the state that things may turn a corner despite your terrible governor?
Yeah, and that's because of FEMA. Now because President Biden has really ramped up the delivery of the vaccines across the country, we're seeing more and more here in the state of Florida. The pop-up, the sites, the actual permanent sites from FEMA are coming online.
All right. So now Nikki is, glad handing Joe Biden about these FEMA sites. Who remembers the FEMA sites? I remember the FEMA sites and the big empty parking lots at the FEMA sites. By the time the FEMA sites got here, everyone that wanted the vaccine already basically got the vaccine through CVS, Walgreens, and Publix, and the pop-up sites. We'd already trenched out our vaccine by the time the FEMA sites got here. The FEMA sites didn't do anything, all right? But that's how she would have held on to those vaccines and waited for the FEMA sites to pop up. And that way that she could, from the top down, select who got the vaccine. Much like she's accusing Governor Ron DeSantis of selecting in these pop-up sites who got it. She would have held on to the vaccines until the FEMA sites, until that she could give them out. It doesn't seem very smart to me. It seems like the way we did it made sense, right? Everyone knows where CVS, Walgreens, and a Publix is. Get it there. Those pharmacies could handle the vaccine and giving it fairly easily. Why wait until we get to the FEMA sites, and that way we can hold on and control. Lock me down harder, Daddy. Control me harder, Daddy. That's the feeling I'm getting from her. All right. Well, that's it. I'm gonna cut it off there. I will put a link to the full video in the description box below me. All right, so feel free to go watch the whole episode, the whole interview with these ladies, and that way, it's always best to go check out the source material. Don't just take somebody's word for it. All right, that is it. I am Michael Bowen. We'll see you out there on the lakes. Keep chasing them wet spots, all right? All right.